Today we're going to go over some of the most important social media platforms. What kind of marketing activities can you engage in within the different ones? What are the best use cases for each, and most importantly, who usually uses them, if there is anything that we can say, so that we can see what are the media that are most appropriate to engage with our customers. Now, to this end, what we're going to do is we're going to start first talking about why social media is important. I think this is obvious by now, but let me say it just in case. Marketing has dramatically changed in the last 20 years. We've moved from a traditional marketing that has been a one way of communication, where we essentially pay the media to blast our message in a one-way communication model, to something that has changed dramatically with social media, where it's a two-way avenue at this point, where we actually have conversations with our customers, and we have moved from just paid media, what we were basically doing before with things like advertising, to actually owning some of the channels ourselves, right? We have our own Facebook page, for example, like we will see in a minute, right? And there we happen to just post whatever content we think it's particularly relevant or useful for our customers, right? And that will be on media. And those channels are going to enable us to maybe have a back and forth with those customers. But most importantly, we're going to have earned media, which is basically third-party channels that are not owned by us, that enable us to still connect and communicate with customers. And maybe there are going to be customers that are going to be doing the marketing for us, right? So ultimately, the question that we're going to try to address today is, out of all these social media platforms that will help us basically move from this big bang marketing to a more continuous engagement marketing, which one of those platforms should we be in? And the answer obviously is going to be, it depends what our customers are interested in, but probably we're going to have multiple platforms in mind that basically best work for our customers. So the goal today is to kind of go through the different platforms so that we can see A, what kind of engagement we can have with our customers in those platforms, and B, what customers are going to be interested in using what platforms. So let's start with the most used social media platform, which is Facebook. Now, let's start with the big numbers. Facebook is huge. What do I mean by huge? Almost 50% of all people that live in this planet have a Facebook account. Right now, there are almost 3 billion Facebook accounts that are active worldwide, right? That is a lot of accounts, obviously, right? But not only that, if you look at Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook, and you account for all their social media platforms, you have Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp, all under the umbrella of Meta. 70% of all internet users use at least one of those 4 social media platforms. So the reach is absolutely phenomenal, right? And beyond the reach, Facebook is interesting because, unlike some of the other social media platforms, it's probably the most cross-generational platform. You're going to encounter typically older generations in Facebook, that is true, but there are still plenty of young people. So if you're interested in doing business with younger, middle-aged, and older folks, if you are interested in a broad demographic, Facebook is probably the most useful or the most appropriate social media platform just on that account. Good. So it's big, it cuts across many different demographics, it's reasonably balanced gender-wise, although there is a gender age interaction, as you can see in the previous slide. What can you do in Facebook? Well, as a business, you can have your own Facebook page, right? So it's essentially a channel where you can communicate content that you think is pertinent to your brand. Obviously, as a company, you can have multiple brand pages, all will be under the umbrella of the corporation, but they will all be from a consumer-facing distinct pages that are going to deal with specific brands. Okay, so here you have an example of how your page will look like, right? This will be for a brand that you probably know, Coke. And as you can see right here, you're going to have a few elements in your page. First, you're going to have your cover photo, right? Which is kind of like what other pages will call the banner, right? Usually you will have some brand elements in there that are clearly identifiable. In the case of Coke, you can see this combination of red and white that is reminiscent of the logo, right? In this particular case, then you have a profile image that represents the brand, okay? And then you're going to have more options that are going to enable customers to interact with the content of the brand, right? You might have some buttons that enable you to do something, like you might have some links, for example, to go to your corporate website, right? Or some buttons that are going to enable you to interact, maybe to share some of the content in the page, maybe to engage with the brand by posting some comments. Okay. You're also going to have a timeline associated with the brand, where you're going to have the different pieces of information that A, are pertinent to the brand, but B, and most importantly, are going to see later, that are pertinent to the user, because Facebook is going to get some say into what is actually posted over here, or at least not posted, but what is displayed to the user. Okay. And then there might be some additional tabs that enable you to have maybe more brand specific information in there. For more interactive aspects, all Facebook pages have a set of buttons that you can mostly see here. The angry one is not showing because unfortunately my face is right there and the sad one is not. So the two negative ones are not shown. What these are supposed to do is enable the users, the people that actually go and visit the page, to interact with the brand by showcasing their emotional reactions, whether positive or negative, towards the brand. As you can see there, the ones that are shown are mostly the positive ones, but there is sad and angry as well. Okay, and what's nice about that is that as a Facebook user, you can actually see the metrics associated with those buttons. So you can actually see who is actually going to see your page, right? What kind of reach you're having in terms of number of users and impressions. That will be number of unique users times the number of times on average that they actually go there, right? And also the number of shares. So there's going to be some sort of metrics that you can actually see to ascertain whether you're actually reaching the right audience by looking at what those demographics are. And actually Facebook's had really, really good tools in that regard. And B, and we'll talk more about this when we talk about search engine marketing later. And then B, how they are interacting with you, right? So that you can see whether you're doing a good job reaching at the right people and also with the right content. Now, what else other than a page do Facebook users have in front of there? Well, they're going to have their feed. What is their feed? This is what the Facebook user sees regardless of whether they are searching for specific content or not. Now, the way the feed works is each user is going to have a customized feed, and that's going to be a function of a number of factors that go into basically an algorithm that Facebook has generated, actually a set of algorithms that enable Facebook to basically curate the posts that the visitor actually sees, right? So whenever you log into Facebook, what you see is unique to you. And the variables that Facebook uses to create that algorithmic curation that we have discussed already is basically who is posting it. So if somebody's in your network of friends, let's say, or you follow them, their content's a lot more likely to show, obviously, right? The type of content that is it, So you might be more interested in pictures or videos or text, and depending on your past history, Facebook is gonna predict what kind of content it should put basically in front of you, because you tend to interact maybe more with pictures, like it is my case, right? See what are your past interactions with a particular user. So maybe there might be some people in your network that you like to interact more with. If that's the case, those are going to be highlighted by Facebook again. And then finally, unsurprisingly, more recent posts are more likely to appear than other ones. This is trying to keep the content fresh for you, right? Now, given that you're a brand, that you have your page on Facebook, essentially what you're doing is you're competing for the attention of the users, right? Unless somebody searches your name within Facebook, like the name of your brand, on purpose, you're essentially competing for their attention, right? And you're competing against the algorithm, right? So understanding the algorithm is actually important. So here are a few basic tips. I think these apply to most social media networks, but we'll go over them. I think most of them are common sense. First is, if you're going to have a post, make sure that you have a catchy headline, right? Something that the type of user that you're interested in, or visitor, it's more likely to be interested in, right? They tend to be more clickbaity. If you've been online long enough, and I know all of you have been, you know exactly what I mean. You tend to leave things out, be a little mysterious, but interesting at the same time. It's a difficult balance between what you say and what you're implying, okay? B, don't be overly promotional. If you're just talking about sell, and people are usually not that excited about those kind of postings, although that depends on what you're trying to achieve and who your audience is, but typically hard sell, it's not something that does very well in social media. And two, you might consider trying different types of posts, some that might have images, some that might not, depending on your audience. And if you do that, we're going to talk later on about tools that you can use to test this. For example, we're going to talk about A/B testing later on, and help us decide what kind of content format we should use, because it's the one that actually does better. We'll look at some metrics to assess this. And then you might want to leverage the tools that Facebook actually give you to determine what's working better or not. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And then finally, unfortunately, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, most of the time, if you want to do well in Facebook, you're probably going to have to spend money in advertising. We'll discuss search engine advertising later, and search engine marketing in general. But in most of these social media platforms, if you want your post to actually do well, you're usually going to need to support that post with some money, so that you basically leverage the tools, the marketing tools associated with the social media. And Facebook is no different than that. What else can you achieve, or how else can you get notoriety within the feed? You can have friends tag you, and when it comes down to some of the content, and essentially what they are doing is they are doing the marketing work for the brand, and you can share any of the brand content with your followers. This is essentially, you're playing the role of an influencer. Okay, so if you have influencers within your network of people that you either pay, compensate, or you compensate indirectly, you might use that also to boost your message within Facebook. Now, how can you do marketing within Facebook? I've already alluded to a few things. One of the nicest things for me on Facebook is that Facebook gives you a lot of leeway in terms of targeting any campaigns that you want to do. So you can actually create campaigns for any content that you have in Facebook, and for content that is actually even outside of Facebook. But these campaigns are going to enable you to do micro-targeting. So not only you're going to be able to specify typical information like demographics and geographic segmentation, which are useful, but they tend not to have the best results. But most importantly, you can do behavior and psychographic segmentation. So you can specify, for example, specific interest that your audience should have. Like, for example, if they like to do outdoor activities, that's something that you can specify before you actually do a campaign. And that's going to give you a much narrower target. And because of that, you tend to have much better results in terms of the campaigns that you're going to do. Okay. And what else can you do within Facebook? You can have different goals. As you can see right here, I don't know if you can see because it's a little bit small. Whenever you start a campaign, and we'll discuss this at more detail later, you can specify what it is that you're trying to achieve. You might be just trying to get people to know your brand. That will be awareness related. Or you might want people to go, for example, to your website, right? That will be traffic. You might want to just engage with your audience. You want people to just maybe learn more about you and maybe do some of the heavy lifting for you. And then finally, you might be interested in just closing a sale, like either getting leads so that you can actually close the sale in a different platform, or maybe promote your app, right? Those will be basically towards the end of your customer journey or sales funnel, okay? And they are all possible. And as you can see here, the click-through for ads that you do in Facebook, it's pretty typical of the industry. This used to be a lot higher numbers 10 years ago, but I think people are bombarded with this kind of ads at this point because of that. Click-through rates are low. So on average, you should expect just under 1% click-through rate for any of the marketing messages that you actually specifically pay Facebook to actually do for you and promote some of your postings, although that varies quite a bit, as you can see over there. There are two different avenues to sell in Facebook within the platform. Obviously, you could generate leads so that you can sell in your website. One is with a Facebook shop where you can actually directly self-merchandise using the store. You have an example here, for example, of a company that it's doing that. If you actually do that, you could actually have them close the sale within the platform, or you can have them connect to whatever external source you're using for monetizing and closing those sales. So if you have your own site that it's e-commerce capable, you can actually have them connect and basically use Facebook as a lead generation, or you can have them close the sale for you, which is nice. And the other aspect that you can do within Facebook is you can use Facebook Marketplace. Now, Marketplace originally was generated as a peer-to-peer transaction system where there is no actual clearing or closing of the sale. This is just to share information about where those items are possible to be transacted, right? But you can actually link Facebook Marketplace to your Facebook shop, and if you do that, you could actually close the sale within your shop. So individuals like me, for example, cannot do this because you cannot have a Facebook shop if you're an individual. But as a business, you can actually link both Marketplace and shop so that you can have people closing the the sale directly within Facebook. Okay, and regardless of whether you shop or not, you can gather plenty of analytics for your interactions via the platform. Now, I'll be honest with you, since 2021, Facebook has made some dramatic changes when it comes down to their analytics. It used to be called Facebook Analytics. Now it's not called that anymore. Now it's Meta Business Suite. They are consolidating all the analytics across all the 4 platforms that are under the Meta umbrella. This has created, in my experience, some sort of opacity compared to how transparent it used to be. You used to be able to, for example, access a demo account so that you can play with this and see before you actually spend money whether it's worthwhile or not. That option disappeared in 2021. So now if you want to see whether it's working or not and how it works, you might have to dip your toes by spending some money. And I'm not sure this is a good move or a bad move, but that's where we are right now. But regardless, given the micro targeting that I was mentioning before, Facebook has a pretty good rep within the industry, and it might be worthwhile, even though you cannot play with it beforehand before you actually spend money. Now, that's the first platform that I want to discuss, which is the largest one. Second largest platform is YouTube. Fun fact, or maybe not so fun, YouTube also is the second search engine, only behind Google. And yes, Google owns YouTube. So I guess I should say Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, and YouTube own both of them. So I guess it's not a stretch. It is the second largest social media platform. So it has a lot of users, well over 2 billion, which is a lot. And as you probably know, it's a site where you can share video, as the name I think clearly indicates. And it's mostly mobile dominant right now. When it was created, it was mostly desktop/laptop dominant, but this is not a surprise given the shift to smartphones. And it is free to watch and free to host. So although there is a premium version that enables you to do some things that otherwise you cannot do, like for example, you can play the videos even though your smartphone main screen is off. That will enable you to, for example, to listen to music without having to have the screen running if, I don't know, you're doing some active activity like you're at the gym, right? There are right now under 100 million users that are actually paying every month to YouTube, so they can actually get that premium set of features that enables you to interact with, especially music, but there are other options like downloads and etc., etc. And given the video nature of all YouTube content, it is heavily infrastructure dependent. What do I mean by this? Well, as the speeds in smartphones have increased from 3G to 4G to now 5G networks, YouTube videos have become increasingly popular. Right now, most of the content by bytes in the internet is video, and the reason why is because video is very data intensive. So as 5G becomes more commonplace and high quality video sharing in smartphones becomes an everyday occurrence, the popularity of YouTube probably will keep increasing over time. And I suspect, but this is a guess, it will bypass Facebook as the main or the most popular social media platform in a few years. Okay, if you look at Facebook numbers, they have not been increasing nearly as fast, whereas YouTube has been steadily gaining room on Facebook. Now, what kind of features are available in YouTube that might make it appealing? YouTube is basically, like I mentioned, video share website. Traditional videos in YouTube are a few minutes long. If you want to, as a creator, monetize your content, there is a cutoff point that it's about 10-minute videos that have made most of the content available in YouTube around that 10-minute mark because of monetization reasons. Just past 10 minutes, it enables you to have more ads, and because of that, creators tend to prefer that. Now, in the last couple of years, YouTube has created a new version of videos that seem to be quite popular, and they are called YouTube Shorts. This is as a clear reaction to TikTok, a platform that we'll discuss in a later video. And in these videos, you have much shorter video formats. They are mostly encouraged for mobile, so a lot of the videos are actually captured with a telephone. but they don't have to be. When I say telephone, I mean smartphone, obviously. And so they are mobile friendly. And I already mentioned that everything is moving towards mobile anyway. And I suspect, based on a little bit of knowledge about neuroscience, that a lot of the success in shorts, which are between 15 and 60-second videos, is because of dopamine. Dopamine is a substance released by your brain when you're chasing something that you like. And the fact that you can just, with a gesture, in this case, moving up from a short, load another short that YouTube thinks, using their algorithm, this curation that we've been talking about, things that you're going to enjoy. Find another video is those dopamine hits that you get from the next click, or in this case, swipe that you're doing up, and that probably has made these shorts really engaging physically, and because of that, really popular online. I definitely see moving more in this direction in the future, given what I'm discussing right now. This is technically addictive in the sense that you like the dopamine hits that you're getting. And now, beyond that neuroscience aspect, what about the marketing associated with YouTube? Obviously, this is highly interactive content. You have the actual video, which is going to enable you to share stories with your customers, right? But it goes beyond that. You can actually interact with people in the comment section, right? So below the video, you have a comment section where users can actually write about the video, and you, as a channel owner, for example, if you're a brand that owns a YouTube channel, could actually interact with your customers or potential customers. Now, what kind of content improvement tools you can use within YouTube for marketing purposes? Well, you can actually use the Google Ads platform to basically promote your videos, right? So we'll talk about search engine marketing more in the future, but given that a lot of these videos are found either through YouTube itself, which uses Google AdWords as their search engine marketing tool, but also through Google itself, you can just basically bump up the search engine results where your video is going to show up. And you can also promote your videos by paying for it. And as an advertiser, you could show up or you can ask YouTube to actually place your ads within the content of other maybe influencers, right? And that's also a possibility. And within your channel, one thing that I really want to emphasize is if you're going to use content in video format, people tend not to like heavily direct sales material. So people might want information like use cases or indirectly help as to how your products can be used, but try to avoid overly salesy content. It doesn't tend to do well, although you will see that pretty quickly if you try it. Now, YouTube, like any other social media platform, has their own analytics suite that enables you to track certain things. In particular, it's going to enable you to track the reach, basically who is actually seeing your video, and the level of engagement that you're achieving with the video. You will see things like, for example, the average time spent, and you will typically see that, since they find the video until they actually leave or stop the video, go to the next one, you're going to observe that usually there is a clear decay over time, so most people won't watch the whole video, and if they do, it's because it's a short video. And what else will you see? You will see who your audience is and where they come from, right? Is it organic or is it some sort of other lead generation system that has enabled you to actually get people to see that video. And then finally, because you're going to have your own channel as a brand, you're going to have some ad information. That's going to tell you basically what should you expect to monetize for all the attention that you have garnered in your channel. So you're going to get basically paid for the attention from potential users that you're actually getting, because you're going to have advertising that it's going to be displaying in the videos that you're creating. That's assuming, of course, that all the content that you're generating is within the guidelines of YouTube. What do I mean by that? Well, there are certain topics that are actually either discouraged or not allowed, especially for monetization. So there might be some businesses that might not be able to generate revenue from their content. Example, if you're Smith & Wesson, for example, a brand that makes weapons like guns or rifles, the content that you're creating may not be monetizable because it's not in accordance with some of the guidelines for monetization within YouTube. So maybe you'll be giving up some of this revenue for achieving other things like leads, etc. So we talked about the first two platforms. The third largest platform, social media platform worldwide, although it's not so big in the US, is WhatsApp, which, like we have discussed, it's part of the Meta group. And this is very, very popular in other countries. You can see it has about 2 billion users worldwide. And now WhatsApp, in case you don't know, is a messaging app that enables you to have either text, video, or audio messages. So you can just send a message to your dad, your best buddy, or you can receive a message from a brand that you're following. Okay. There are ways of interacting with users and potential users from a marketing perspective. I'll discuss some of those in the next page. But like I said before, it's particularly heavily used in Asia, in Europe, not as much here in the Northern American continent. And one thing that it's interesting is that people that use WhatsApp use it pretty heavily for short snaps of time, unlike maybe YouTube, where you might say for a longer period of time. WhatsApp, like any other messaging app, usually you're going to use it many times during the day. So here you have some averages. The average user uses it about 25 times a day. That's a lot. That's average. Some people will use well over 100. And also lighter users like me, and might only use it less than 1 time a day, right? And on the other hand, if you look at the time spent, you're going to see that on average, the average user uses it about 40 minutes a day. So that means for each interaction, you're only going to use it about 1.5 minutes. Okay, unlike YouTube videos where you might actually spend an average of 20 minutes, and because of that, you're watching about maybe 2 to 4 videos, right? It's a very different frequency of interaction, something that you're using maybe for personal communication and also to engage with some businesses as a user. And you need to take this into consideration when you're trying to come up with a strategy for this kind of platform as a brand. Okay. So from a business perspective, how can you use WhatsApp? Well, there are a couple of different ways you can use it. A very popular way to use WhatsApp is basically to provide customer support, right? So instead of sales, which you can also do via WhatsApp, but it might not be as popular in some industries and in some countries. In others, it might be. But the nice thing about WhatsApp is when you have already existing customers, you can allow them to opt in into your WhatsApp so they can actually get customer support. So if they have a problem, they can just text you essentially, and you can have customer service representatives that will provide some support that is customized to that user, right? So this is going to enable you to basically increase your customer satisfaction of existing users, right? So this is a different side of the customer journey that maybe what Facebook will do, which will help you with the awareness part and maybe help you with the sale. This is after sale has happened to provide customer support. Okay. Now there are a few guidelines of what you can and you cannot do. What WhatsApp requires is if you're going to basically engage with customers as a business, they do not allow you to use just indiscriminate templates, so you're always sending the same message to everybody. You need to have somewhat customized templates so that you provide basically unique information to each user that is engaging with you, so that you are actually adding value to them as opposed to just spamming everybody with the same message. And there is also a requirement that you do interact with the user that is, for example, asking you a question within at a minimum 24 hours, although most firms tend to be faster than this. Now, what can you see within WhatsApp, and what kind of tools are at your disposal? I'll talk about the analytics in a minute. About tools, given that it's personal communication, or at least somewhat personal communication, one thing that is particularly useful is WhatsApp is going to provide you with templates that you can actually use, and some tools that enable you to basically customize who that message goes to, and maybe using tools like macros enable you to somewhat customize messages, but on the other hand be efficient enough so that you can reach a large audience of customers with not 100% customized, but customized enough that it's valuable information messages. And they have a lot of automation tools that you can use so that you can basically do this more efficiently. That way you don't have to have a really large number of customer representatives or channel managers. And then finally, they will enable you to have, for example, FAQs, which are somewhat popular also. What kind of information are you going to get from their analytics suite? In my experience, a lot of people use third-party apps to go through this data, but if you look at the kind of data that they will give you, the obvious stuff, which is the number of messages that you have sent and to who have you sent them, maybe broken down by demographics and reach metrics. And then most importantly, they're going to give you some quality/feedback metrics. Like, for example, most important one in WhatsApp is going to be response time. And this is going to give you an idea about what messages are hot and they are actually working and which ones are not. So you can see first response. So if you're sending the same message to, let's say, 100 people, what is the reaction time to the fastest person that is responding? It's going to be a metric of how much interest there is within the subgroup to the messages that you're sending, and to the average response time. This is going to give you again indication of that. And then finally, if you have some actions underlying some of your campaigns, CTAs that we have discussed, you're going to have some metrics that are going to enable you to basically look at how long it went from the moment that you send the message, so the moment you were chatting with your customer, until they actually complete the action that you're interested in. That's going to give you a chat to conversion rate metrics that are going to basically tell you how effective these campaigns have been. And that's what I have for you guys for this one.